So wonderful, good evening, dear LinkedIn community, Composites Launch members, EuCIA members, ECCA signatories. This is the final part of the European Circular Composites Alliance General Assembly, and together with me now is Julia Minici, and she is from Italy, Germany, and Sweden. And she will explain you now how that came. And the reason why I ask her now on an interview is because we are talking recycling all day and the circular economy. And Afterwind, the name says it all, has a solution for that. But not only for wind, but also for other areas. So we will dive into this just after this short break. So Julia, for our community who doesn't know you yet so far, you have been to my live stream already, but let's dive a bit now deeper. What is your role? What is your company with, and what's the brand promise of your company?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me again, I guess. So yes, as you were saying, I define myself European. I represent many different countries proudly. I'm very proud to be European. I am a co-founder of Afterwind. Afterwind is 2 years old. We are a Swedish-based recycling company, and what we do is true recycling of glass fiber composite, where true is the word that matters for us. And what it means is we valorize the material. We aim not to landfill, we aim not to incinerate. What we want to do is recover value from the raw material that we get. We started with wind because that's where our customers asked us to go. We are new to the composite space, but we're not new to recycling. We have over 40 years of experience of recycling in different sectors, starting with plastic, going into tires, and then now moving into composites. So we were asked to come and help from our customers. We thought we had the right technology set up, know-how, and so we took on the challenge and we said, we're going to come over and help. My brand promise, consistent quality at scale. I think that's what the customers ask us over and over again. I think in order to make a change, you need to provide a sustainable feed stream of secondary raw material back into the industry, which today doesn't happen. It happens in pockets, but it doesn't happen at scale or at a place in where the manufacturers feel comfortable maybe changing slightly their production process to accept recycled fibers.
So let's dive a bit deeper now in the technology. So there is a pain point. And I can fully understand the wind industry right now. A lot of these blades, we've seen that picture, are landfilled all the time. And rather than landfilling them, it would be a good idea to recycle them or put them into a different application in the future. So what technology would you now propose to the wind industry?
So we start our value proposition the other way around. So the way that we're doing it is we look at who wants to use the material and what are their requirements, and then we try to map the right technology to that. We have two primary technologies and then a third one that we use when needed, but we do mechanical recycling, and to the extent possible we would like to do only that. We know that it doesn't meet all the requirements, but we think is the most sustainable and the most scalable solution at this point. Where mechanical recycling runs short, we're developing a solvolysis solution. So we have a whole chemical department team that is looking at how do we further clean the fibers in order to reintegrate them where needed. And again, we don't want to do it on all the material, but only on the material the clients require a certain level of readiness. And for everything that we don't know how to valorize, which is by far our main goal, we gasify it, and so we turn it into energy, which I know is controversial, but we have a zero waste policy and we prefer to do that rather than wasting the materials.
Where is your technology readiness level from 0 to 10? Are you already in the standard quality production like 8, 9, 10, or is it still in the development phase?
Depends on which technology, but the mechanical one, we classify ourselves as 7.
Okay.
And the chemical recycling one, we classify ourselves at 4 going into 5.
Okay, so it's the one is rather in the beginning, and in the concept stage, and the other one is already really market fit, you could say. What is the situation at the wind industry? I'm getting mixed responses. Do we really need to look after the wind industry here in Europe at all? I mean, this morning we heard, for example, in the United States, wind is wiped off. They don't want to deal with wind. Will that happen also in Europe? What's the stage right now?
I mean, I hope not. I'm not in a position to talk about what's going to happen to the wind industry, but what I know from the back end of the wind industry is that they're held to very high sustainable standards, and I think they're doing the best they can to meet those standards and overachieve on those standards. So from my perspective, that's where the industry is at. I was just saying to a gentleman, we just received our first full blade last week. It's the first time we're doing it. It's a 66-meter blade, and it is quite
it's quite long.
Yeah, it's an endeavor. Like, it's a logistical nightmare, but also when you see it, it's beautiful.
Yes.
The product.
Yes. I was just the other day in Dresden at IMA A+. They have also a similar blade installed. They have a machine on this that is basically vibrating the blade also, but they do testing so that. So okay, I play advocate's devil, or the devil of advocate. Yeah, advocate's devil. Say, okay, wind is over. So what are you going to do with your technology then?
No, don't listen to him. Wind is not over. No, but I mean, the reality is that wind is only a fraction of the composite industry. And so there's different numbers. The one that I use is wind waste is about 11% of the total composite byproduct, end-of-life material that there is. So the technology is transferable. We don't really have any, ties to a specific product or a specific industry. I think the core is what I said at the before. So consistent quality, stable material and feed stream. So no matter what we do, it has to be in the big numbers or in numbers that are interesting. And so that's been our strategy. We've been building up our feedstock. And so our warehouse is now full of different materials. And so now the goal is which batches go together and to whom. But we've got construction and we've got automotive as well, in addition to wind, as industries that we tap into today.
And what about the boating industry?
The boating industry is an interesting one. I mean, so far I think boating is difficult, and we've heard this morning, for those of you that weren't here, there's been a lot of discussions around what we do with boat and how do we define a boat and which boat, recreational boat versus commercial boats, and how do we do the work. So there's lots of work to be done there, but lots of focus. I'll be actually in Düsseldorf at the European Boating Conference, speaking together with Rafael, who's the managing director of EuCIA, to talk about sustainability. So how do we take what we've learned from other industry and bring it into the boating industry?
There again, I think, is a big future. You know about the ghost boats that are there without any owner, just sitting somewhere in the harbor. Nobody cares about them. Those need to be recycled in future. I see there a big opportunity for you guys.
There definitely is a big opportunity. I think the challenge that I see that we need to solve is how do we collect them and where do we bring them? And so the whole upstream portion of it is something that we need to solve. And in all fairness, I can't talk to the material. So what has happened to the material after they've been in water for 50 years, right? And what's the quality of that? So that's our challenge.
So dear community, Julia was saying this presentation this morning was from an European Commission officer from DG, the Directorate General Marine. And this presentation will be soon also streamed here live on tape on LinkedIn, so you can also watch it. And I have shown you some footages of that. Right, so we've talked about Afterwind, we've talked about you. Now we are here in Brussels, in the European capital. We have this nice flag here, the European flag. Now tell me, Julia, you've signed the ECCA, the European Circular Composites Alliance.
Yes.
And what is your intention? What is your hope maybe? Or what do you trust on with the Alliance? How do we connect you with stories within the composites and sustainable materials industry? We are on the ground to find the facts. We examine big, innovative ideas. We let diverse perspectives on technology and sustainability emerge and ignite conversations that matter most to bring you the composites and sustainable materials world. Stay informed, stay connected, stay inspired. From our online studios in Germany, covering events and corporates from France, Italy, UK, Central Europe, and many more European regions. Join us for creating sustainable value.
With Composites 360 on tour, Composites Lounge engineering talks, and Composites Lounge end-user panels hosted by Ilkay Özkisaoglu. Weekly on LinkedIn, YouTube, and your preferred podcasts.
So, I signed it and I also volunteered to chair a couple of working groups. To me, this is the be all and end all. I don't know if you can say it that way, but to me, this is the North Star. It's the vision, is the drive. And I think, you've heard me say this before, but for the guys on the that are listening in right now, I think this room today was incredible, and it just strengthened my drive and my focus. I want to do something. I want to play my part, and I know that I'm the last comer and I'm the little one, but I think everybody has a role to play, and everybody has to take on their own responsibility and their own ownership to drive towards a common goal. And I think ECCA gave us the vision, the platform, the space to do that, and it's on us to take it and drive this forward.
Absolutely. I've called this a movement.
Yes, that's what we discussed also the last time. I love that word. It is a movement. It is a group of volunteers that want to do.
So we are like-minded in that case, because this is a once, at least in my 30 plus years in composites, that we have a movement like this. And also for me, this is the reason why I signed the ECCA letter. So you were surprised about the number of attendants today. So you said the energy and the crowd here was cool?
Yes, the number of attendants, and I think not one person has questioned today if this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it's a given. It is a good idea.
Yeah.
And so it's about how do we do it and how do we implement it. I think that is incredible. It's a win. There's only believers in this room, and from every side of the industry, right? If we were color coded, and I had a hard time remembering what color was aligned to which group, because there were so many.
But we have to say, dear community, like you mentioned before, you have several working groups. You are chairing several working groups. But what I found super cool is that you have left the voices also to the vice chairs. So you did not speak to everyone at every stage. So
if I can, I have a belief that is like something like this only works if it's a group effort, right? You can have one person empowering and taking the voice, but it's not gonna
absolutely
make a change.
Let's run very quickly because we're coming towards the end of this video. Let's run quickly to your working groups. You got 1, 2, 3? You got 2. Yeah, let's run through them. What's the purpose of the group? Number of group members, and what have you decided so far?
Yes, so I run 2 working groups, the industrial and recreational working groups and the construction working groups, and they are on 2 opposite sides of the spectrum. So industrial and recreational has 78 members.
Okay, that's a number.
So you can imagine that it's
full ECCA, he said today, is 185, so roughly half of it is in your
is joining the working group at some point or another. We're chairing 2 working groups for ECCA, the industrial and recreational working group and the construction working group, and they are on 2 different sides of the spectrum. So the industrial and recreational working group, they have 78 members, and they cover pretty much every role, but of course industrial, raw material and composite manufacturers take the lead in that group. I thought it was gonna be a shy group, but it is really not.
Very engaging, very interactive,
So as a chair, I measure my success in, not speaking so much, but letting the group talk. So it makes it though hard to moderate and sometimes bring it back to the point, but I think we got there. The mission of that group is really to think cross industry recycling. So they have started from a point, let's challenge the definition of closed loop. And even though we believe that that might be the right long-term goal, there are roadblocks that we need to solve before we're able to get there. So what's the road to get there? That's their goal. They've identified sub-working groups and they're flying. Like they are all owning themselves, they're owning their work, and they're all set up for getting it done in 2026. The construction working group is the smallest working group of them at all. There is about 15 participants.
15?
15. But they are all very vocal as well in their approach. We've gone a whole other approach with them, and they have actually told us what's their vision for 2035. And if you read the dreams of the people, I think you can be proud. It is about valorizing practically no waste, leading circularity globally, and there's very ambitious target that we want to give ourselves. Now the challenge for composite and construction is working backwards from that vision, taking on one issue after the next. Composite in construction has low penetration, so how do we make composite as important as steel?
So the construction side is the smallest. We have the issue with the construction that you need a lot of homologations, approvals, and these are very heavy investments. Today in Germany, for example, as you know, composites are not a construction material that are free. But on the other side, there are associations and there are manufacturers who took really a lot of money to get the homologations. So we will see in the near future the construction industry picking up very sharply on composite materials. So right now, yes, 15, maybe not a big number, but that has probably the potential even to be the biggest one in the near future.
Yes. Yes, I couldn't agree more. But yeah, and we have a specialist, Eric Messner.
Yeah.
He is all advocating about EN codes for composites and construction. So, well, he has our support.
Good. So, dear community, you see the ECCA is living from a working group. With Julia, we have someone who has even 2 working groups, managing them, and you have a leadership role here, and you make a great job in keeping them involved and motivated to work with you guys. So for next year, what would be your plan for next year? So you mentioned you have this panel at the boat show in Düsseldorf.
Yes.
Anything else you have on your plan?
So if we stay in the ECCA environment, for me today was about making ECCA sustainable, and so I'm committed to ride along with the journey and give my time to this and keep driving the working groups as needed for the next period. We gave ourselves target 2030, 2035, and so I'm all in.
Okay.
Getting that done.
So I keep fingers crossed that the wind industry will still play a major role.
Come on.
You see, I'm not that big of a wind fan. I'm an industrial man, I have to tell. My community knows automotive, aerospace, boating, everything that is in transport is mine.
Okay, I'm cheering for you.
We are cheering for you. There's for everyone is a part of the market there. Julia, thank you so much for being part of my show, and I wish you all the best and all the success.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you, everyone.